Hello there, third year students in the College of Art Department of English. Today we have the poem entitled Epistle to Miss Blount on her leaving the town after the coronation by Alexander Pope. An epistle means a letter or a message. The poem is written as a letter sent to a girl whom the poet has some acquaintance with. Acquaintance with means he is a friend to her or a lover. Writing an epistle or a letter became an art at that time as a result of the overpopulation of the town. The town, especially in the capital, became so large so it becomes difficult for people to see each other easily. When the town was small, they could see their friends. But with the advancement in the industry and the trade, overpopulation took place, and big towns changed gradually into big cities that contained many suburbs. Thus, the letters or epistles appeared to substitute personal meetings. Writing a letter flourished at that time and became a form of art, and it had its own stipulations. Stipulations means it has its own conditions or features. In the 18th century, even novels were written in the epistolary form. In poetry, the epistle became a form of poetic expression during the 18th century, as we said. In this poem, we are going to study the theme of the poem, that is the satire of the countryside, lack of love or the negative image of love, and alienation. Secondly, we are going to talk about the structure of the poem, that is the traditional structure of epistles. In the third place, we are going to tackle new classical elements or new classical characteristics. That is the correctness of language and the beauty of its expressions, form, the use of allusions, and satire. First, we are going to talk about the theme of the poem. As we said, the themes of this poem are the satire of the countryside, satire of the squires as a representative of the countryside people, and we have the lack of love and alienation. Satire of the countryside. The epistle to Miss Blount shows us what happened to a beautiful girl leaving the gaieties of the city. She was first in the city. She left the gaieties of the city, that is, the dances, the parties in the city. And she returned to her village, to her countryside. So she left the gaieties of the city and of the town and buried herself and her beauty in the obscurity and dullness of the countryside. Countryside means the village. The poet dwelt much on the boredom of the country life. The girl has to spend her time in a very monotonous routine. She has to rise at an early hour in the morning, and she has to take her morning walks every day. She has to have her tea or coffee and dinner at a specific time every day. And she has also to read books also at a specific time every day. and she has to spend a long time or long hours in a praying. So her life, according to Alexander Pope, is empty of any pleasure or any real activity. The only source of pleasure was her relationship with the sequoia. This is the only break of the routine of her life. As we said, the sequoia means, or a sequoia means the landlord or the landowner in the countryside. She finds a pleasure in tormenting and torturing him. Tormenting and torturing him means that is upsetting him, disturbing him, or punishing him. However, the sequoia seemed very foolish. He lacks the delicacy of a gentleman in the city. He's not a gentleman. He's a very rough man, that he's equated to his dog. The poet finds this a good occasion for satire. As we know, satire was lurking in the minds of the new classical poets. Whenever they found an occasion for satire, they used it immediately. In this poem, the poet satirizes the countryside, showing it as a very monotonous, that is a very boring place, very dull, very dark place where beauty is buried. He also satirizes the sequoias in the countryside as representatives of that word. They are as rough as their dogs. His jests are very dirty. Jests means his jokes. His jokes are very dirty. His laughter is very loud, and even his love is very silly. The poem shows us that the only possible way to escape is dreaming. The only outlet to all the desires of a beautiful girl would be to sit down and to dream of a true love, to dream of adventures, and to dream of freedom. This may take us to the theme of alienation. The poem shows us the case of alienation, that is, when one lives in a certain place, but he or she feels himself or herself as, let us say, a stranger in that place. So dreaming, imagination, and fancy are symptoms of alienation. Symptoms means that signs, indications of alienation. Mrs. Blount escapes from her difficult reality to another place where her dreams are fulfilled. So the poem can be taken as a study of alienation. So as we said that she is dreaming of a true love. So in this poem we have the negative image of love. This is the other theme, or the fourth theme in the poem, the negative image of love. The poem is supposedly an expression of love, but we don't see really any love. The new classical poet is not a poet of love, as we said in our introduction. He's not a poet of love at all. He does not write about personal emotions. His poems are not poems of emotions, of private or personal feelings. But this poem shows the failure of the new classical poet as a poet of love. So the poem was written originally to express love to that country girl, but the love we see is very cold, secondary. It comes at the end very briefly and very coldly. The poem is emotionally dry, as the element of love is weak. We don't feel the warmth of love. The poet speaks about so many things in the poem, yet he avoids speaking about his emotions. Even his view of love is very negative. Love here is a kind of slavery. He represents himself as a slave. So, this failure in expressing personal or private emotion is a characteristic of the new classical poetry. Thank you.